You may or may not already know a charming character called Anna Scanlon currently has an ongoing court case with the fabulous Charles Marlow, formerly known as Vegan Cheetah, and she made a video in support of her case that was titled, "There is money to be made in online bullying, harassment, and defamation." The question we have to ask in 2017 is there even any truth to that anymore? There seems to be less and less money in the game. Play the clip. No, we'll add in the clip.
Why is this not a gossip channel anymore? And I really want to kind of explain exactly why I moved away from the older format. There's several reasons why I'm no longer doing the gossip and the drama, like news format, and why I'm doing what I'm doing now. But videos of mine have been demonetized. I'm not getting the same amount of ad revenue that I used to get maybe 6 months ago. So that means like the amount of money that I get per ad is much lower as well. Advertisers, companies, corporations do not want to place their ads on videos that are slightly triggering.
I will leak your fucking nudes, I will send them to your father, and I'll send them to your job.
Like even just triggering in the slightest way. Or I'm making content that the advertisers don't want to spend money on or place their ads on. I can't make money. I think last month I made $500 on this channel. I made about $500, which it's not nothing, but compared to what I have made before, it's like a fraction of what I was making.
I was connected in a strange way to the rise of two different drama channels. Charles Marlow, Vegan Cheetah, and also Joe Vegan. Him too. Joe Vegan. And I think I was really linked in a very powerful way to the fall and destruction of another drama channel of Durian Rider. I've said for a long time, there's kind of this weird mix of motives on YouTube for why do people make videos anyway? Why do people try to turn what's obviously a pastime and a form of social networking into a career? And if you think about that word social networking, it's really well suited to political activism, because a large part of what you want to do with sincere political activism is find people you can cooperate with, find people you can do fundraising with, find people you can go to City Hall with, find people you can share your life with in a meaningful way. And of course, social networking, you find boyfriends and girlfriends. I mean, it's not just me. I would never have met my girlfriend without YouTube, without social networking in this sense. Henya met several of her boyfriends and girlfriends through social media. A natural vegan met her boyfriend, or I don't know if they're married now, her husband, through being on YouTube. For a lot of us, it's a meaningful part of our lives in many different ways. And we have whatever mix of motives in terms of political aspirations and personal aspirations and the good things social networking can bring to your life. But my motivations exclude money. If I were here on YouTube for money, I would be insane. If I dropped out of my university program in order to pursue YouTube as a way of making money, that would be insane. And for most of this channel's history, I've been enrolled as a university student. I'm currently kind of both a university student and a university professor. Slightly weird situation here. And people said to me, people like Jason and Anya said to me when I first talked to them, like, "Oh, why don't you drop out of your job? Why are you worried about having a career? Why don't you just become a full-time social media activist or full-time YouTube personality?" And I had the maturity and detachment to say that's crazy. So look, there are people who are victims of this phenomenon in different ways. Like Charles Marlow is now facing, I believe, he's in court with Anna Scanlon. Thank you. Shout out to Anna. Haven't talked to her for a while, but back when Anna was a normal YouTuber, normal part of the scene, we used to chat. He dropped out of his university degree. He was enrolled in a college program in journalism, and he moved to Los Angeles to chase all the good things that micro-fame could bring into his life, which indeed, money, sex, fame, power, maybe revenge, maybe a few other motivations tacked on there. And, in a very real sense, I think he's a victim of his own success, because that success is so modest that it might as well be a failure. He was successful enough to feel like he was famous. He was successful enough to be getting more emails in a day than he could possibly answer. He was probably successful enough to have more women offering to sleep with him than he could possibly sleep with. And for a lot of guys, that does go to their heads. But there was no way he could pay his rent. Definitely not in the greater Los Angeles area. There was no way this could really be a career. And for this guy in particular, believe me, I'm not someone who uncritically praises getting a college diploma. On the contrary, we're constantly, lamenting how terrible the college system is in both the United States and Canada. It's a big topic of conversation within this relationship. It's a major theme in my life. But nevertheless, for Charles Marlow specifically, if you know about his criminal background, his career background, and his prospects for the future, it would have been a really serious asset for him to step up, go to college, get a college degree, get on track for some kind of career in his life. And he sacrificed all that for this little bit of fleeting fame and even less money. And now that the money is draining out of the game, things are going to change. So, two contrasting examples of this. I'm responding to the fact that Anna Scanlon had this video, which was quite well titled. She said, there is money to be made in, cyberbullying, harassment, and defamation. And I agree with her. In the past, that's a problem I've addressed many times on this channel. It's like, look, we got to talk about the implications of the fact that people are making a career out of defamation. I used to call it, slander as a contact sport. This is like taking slander and trying to turn it into a way to make money. But in some ways, at the opposite end of the political spectrum here on Vegan YouTube, you had someone like Privileged Vegan. Her channel name is called A Privileged Vegan. Her name's Maureen. She's also a victim of this same thing. She dropped out of her master's degree. She dropped out of university in order to chase this fantasy of being a full-time YouTube activist. What am I going to say? A full-time YouTube personality? To chase this little bit of money and this bit of microfame. I see her as a victim of it also. One, we don't know her as well. I've talked to Maureen. Back in the day we talked. You guys know I've had some videos kind of back and forth with her. Caitlin Shoemaker, who I don't know at all. You and I both kind of sat there and watched this video in like horror with, one eyebrow raised all the way up when she was explaining her decision to drop out of college. Again, a master's degree in her case.
Physical therapy.
Okay, MA in physical therapy, something like that. To do YouTube full time. And, my response is along the lines of, huh? So those are channels that are in no way involved in drama or defamation, not to my knowledge. I don't know if in her spare time Maureen defames some people, but not to my knowledge. They're not in that same category. But nevertheless, this is the problem. Look, I'm not an optimist. The money is leaving the game, and a large part of the energy, the rambunctious energy that was here in Vegan YouTube 2-3 years ago, or let's just say 2 years ago, was the fact that people like Freely and Durian Rider weren't just making money themselves. They were preaching to the audience. They were actively saying, you also can make money doing this. They would sometimes say anybody can make money, and they'd sometimes say you specifically can make money. So they were reaching out to their audience and really selling this, almost like a pyramid scheme or like some kinds of cults, but it was really amping people up and getting people highly motivated to come online and make pretty terrible videos. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of energy. That energy is draining out of the scene. The money is draining out of the scene. The money motivation is disappearing from the scene. But do I think that's going to make, the digital demimonde of vegan discourse better and better? It's hard for me to be optimistic because the remaining motives are fame, power, sex. Again, maybe some others like revenge, just malice. There's just pure, straight up malice. People who do things on the internet just out of hatred and rancor and anger. There's plenty of that too. Yeah. And to some extent, I can't hate on that stuff. Anyway, compared to the other hobbies people have in their lives, compared to watching American football or baseball, if your hobby is just to come on YouTube and talk about your feelings, it's probably overall a pretty positive hobby. I think it's a positive hobby compared to paying a therapist to listen to you talk about your feelings. You can come on YouTube and talk to whoever wants to listen to your feelings. So that's kind of a beautiful thing. To come back to the not so beautiful parts, I mentioned earlier, I had this weird interaction at a crucial juncture in their career with both Vegan Cheetah, Charles Marlow, and Joe Vegan. Joe Vegan, he used to just have a down-to-earth, normal channel talking about his life, talking about his feelings, and then he did a couple of videos in which he did impersonation of me. That was the turning point for his channel. He started doing impersonations of me, and the crowd went wild. He was suddenly way more popular. And then he started doing impersonations of other channels, and his content took on a whole new direction, took on a whole new form because of that money motivation. And again, I'm not going to hate on him for it. I think a lot of people respond that way. You could look at my channel at any point where I had an oddly, like a hit video, where I had a video that got some tens of thousands of views. I think my first video about Game of Thrones, I had like one video about Game of Thrones that was, inexplicably really popular. So obviously, if I was interested in chasing views, I could have taken on a new direction then. Like, okay, I've got to mine this audience. I've got to capitalize on this while I've got 100,000 people here looking at me interested in Game of Thrones. I understand how people respond to that, and obviously money is the fundamental motive. Because if what you care about is coming on and talking about your life and keeping it real, which is what I care about, that I do once in a while. I come on and talk about Game of Thrones, but it's just once in a while. I'm not going to try to commercialize on that potential. So I saw that happen with Joe Vegan, and it was a really weird time in my life. I remember trying to explain to my Chinese language teacher in Kunming, hey, I have a successful YouTube channel, but there's this other YouTube channel with a guy who wears a bald cap, wears a fake wig, and pretends to be me and does an impersonation of me, and his channel is actually more popular than mine. It's more popular for people to go watch him making fun of me than to watch me doing my own thing. And now all of this, for people who are just joining the vegan scene online, people who are just getting into the Demimon, it's all disappeared. There's like no trace of that on YouTube anymore. But that was a big thing for a while there. And I mean, likewise, Charles Marlow, I think the only sense you can get of how much his channel changed in the time I knew him, in the time he and I were friends, you can click, I'll give it below this video, you can click on the playlist for my conversations with Charles. There was a time when his channel was keeping it real. There was a time when he was trying in a major way to be friends and colleagues with Privileged Vegan, when he was talking that social justice warrior talk, when he was identifying with intersectional politics, and I've seen him go through all kinds of different phases, but he used to have a sincere, down-to-earth channel, and then he had a period where he was kind of joking around in a harmless way. There's a period when he was just making fun of Durian Ryder for Durian Ryder bragged about saving the lives of snails, that he would pick up snails if he saw a snail on the road, and Charles just kind of made fun of that in a harmless way. I remember there was this period where it was all fun and games, was so harmless. But then you see he started chasing that money, the most elusive part of the game. He started trying to capitalize on his microfame. And I remember he boasted to me the first time he ever really made money out of YouTube, the first month he ever made money, was because of my channel. The month when he was covering the conflict between me and Durian Ryder, that was the first time he made over $3,000 in a month out of YouTube, and that was a big deal to him. He came to me and he said, wow, he said to me, I still have the email probably, he said, look, I really have to thank you. He said, I made $3,500 a month this month for the first time, and he said, I'm aware in a major way the kind of magic that's happening for my channel now, for the growth of Vegan Cheetah, was that now it's called Charles Marlow, that this growth is because of you and because of what you went through in this conflict with Durian Ryder. And I was affable. I said, well, whatever. But that was really the turning point for him too. He had this brief opportunity where a lot of people were paying attention to him because of his coverage of and his response to what was happening with me in Chiang Mai with my story. And then at first he tried to capitalize on that in a kind of harmless way, joking around and also just reporting. Like, he reported on the breakup between Freely and Durian Ryder before anyone else reported on it. Before I knew they'd broken up. I knew they were staying in separate hotels, and I was like, huh? Because I was in Chiang Mai at the time. I was like, okay, you stay at separate hotels, huh? But he started covering that, and then he moved on and on. But for him, that really rapidly became a downward spiral where, I mean, look, if you think about the word drama, it's not drama if it's not real. If you're not keeping it real, what you're doing on YouTube is not drama anymore, right? Like, if you just make up stories, if it's just slander and defamation and fiction, it's not drama, And that was the decisive step he took. He took a step from reporting the news to inventing and making up the news. Mm-hmm. And now his story ends with him broke, penniless, no source of income, no career, no education, having dropped out of college, having moved into an apartment in LA he can't afford the rent on, and in court, getting his ass kicked in court by Anna Scanlon. And anyone who knows the ins and outs of that case knows that this is not something where both sides are half right. It's not like, well, there are two sides of the story and the truth is halfway in between. This is going to be the world's most one-sided court case because all the facts are on Anna Scanlon's side. She's 100% right. He's 100% wrong. And the only question is, how much pity is the judge going to take on him? And given that he's an ex-convict with a long criminal record, I doubt there's going to be a whole lot of pity left for him. So that's it. All these people are victims of the game in different ways. Charles Marlow, someone like Joe Vegan, someone like Marine, a privileged vegan. And, of course, all the little people who, paid their money and flew to Chiang Mai, subscribed to this ridiculous diet. But hey, I don't know, you want to pop in a comment. My girlfriend's just here eating her fabulous tofu breakfast. I'd like to think, if there's one thing I am optimistic about, it's that the vegan movement is stronger than all this. The same way that the vegan movement is bigger than and deeper than and stronger than any one book, like the Skinny Bitch book that was a fad that came and went. It's bigger and stronger than How Not to Die by Michael Greger. Different books come and go, different fashions come and go. But veganism, for me, this is a movement. It's not just about today or tomorrow. It's about the next 300 years. It's a millennium-making struggle.